Got
Welcome to Fish North Georgia's The Live Well, brought to you tonight by our friends at For Her Outdoor Apparel. Here's Danny and Ryan to tell you what bass are biting right now.
all right, absolutely. Well, welcome this Thursday night to the Live Well here at Fish North Georgia. I want to thank Paul right there for an absolutely outstanding intro. He's got the voice for radio, definitely not the face. That's why we got him back there behind the camera. But no, absolutely perfect, Paul. I like it. Guys, thanks for joining us tonight. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Click that notification bell. We got a lot of good videos coming out. Of course, make sure you follow us on TikTok, Facebook at the Facebook page, and TikTok right there, and the Fish North Georgia group page. Twitter, we've got one of those too. But anywhere, Instagram, can't leave out the Instagram. Got to do the gram. So if
we've got over 5,000 on the gram.
Over 5,000 on the gram right now. So there you go. So anyway, all our social media platforms, guys, we appreciate you joining us tonight. And again, if you're watching or listening at a later date, hey, we love you too. So got a great show for you tonight. We're just going to sit here and talk fishing. We're going to get right in there with our comment section and read the comments that you guys have coming in and answer any and all questions that we've got that come across the board. And we're just going to have some good fishing talk. We've spent a lot of time on the water recently, and we're going to tell you what we're seeing and what we were catching them on and what didn't work. Sometimes that's even more important. And if you hang around long enough, we're going to get to talking about bed fishing, because it is that time of year. And whether your thoughts are pro or against bed fishing, hey, we want to hear and we want to talk about it. So again, Paul started out the show talking about For Her Outdoor Apparel. It's right there on the screen. Created for women by women. We tell you all the time, they got an absolutely very cool selection of apparel geared towards women, but they got stuff for the guys too, from your beanies all the way down to your sweatshirts. Their sweatshirts are really good. Go to forheroutdoor.com and support them, local business out of the Forsyth County area. So we appreciate those fine ladies for being a sponsor here on the Live Well. We'll get to the rest of our sponsors as the show progresses. Want to go ahead and take some time and say hello to everybody. Jennifer Jones, James F., Neil Scoggins, Ron Swinford. I saw Jeremiah up there. All right. Franco is here tonight. That's good too. Kim Burke. And again, if you're watching on Facebook, go to www.streamyard.com/Facebook and enter a name in there so we can call you something other than Facebook. All right. So anyway, Ryan and I have been, like I said, we've been spending some time out on the water. Lakes we've covered the last few days has been Chatoog. Ryan had a tournament up there Saturday. Latham Reservoir, I had a tournament out there Saturday as well. Plus, I fished it yesterday. And Ryan and I also spent some time on the water on Lake Lanier Monday evening. So a lot of great bodies of water we've been on. The weather seems to be pretty good unless you're fishing on a Saturday for some reason, and then you get the thunderstorms coming through or the high wind, which I think is in the forecast for this coming up week. But regardless of that, any time on the water is well spent, and we're gonna get right into the action. And Paul's going to jump in with comments as well from some fishing that he's done or things that he has seen. And so you're over there playing with your buzz beta. You ready to talk tonight?
Let's go.
Huh? You ready to go? All right, so let's get right into it, guys. The weather here in Georgia the last week, I guess, we're getting the warmer days, getting a little bit warmer nights. We have those ups and downs a little bit, but pretty much it seems like we're in our springtime pattern where Georgia's going to be warming up, and the water temps are warming up as well. So, Ryan, let's go ahead and let's start off with Chatoog, because that's a lake we don't cover near as much before we get into the local, the more local bodies of water. So, what did you see on Lake Chatoog this past Saturday?
Well, Lake Chatoog, like it generally is this time of year, is behind. It just typically stays behind.
Behind meaning what?
Behind the rest of the lakes that are out of the mountains.
Right.
That are on the foothills. Chatoog, of course, is basically on top of a mountain.
It is. It's very high up there.
It is. And so Chatoog was... So the water temperature, I think, Saturday morning was started out around 54, which was considerably cooler than some of the other places around, where they were a little bit warmer than that. The fish were shallow, deep, and open water. It was like,
can we use the word scattered?
We might as well just say scattered.
Yeah.
there was a lot of different things that was happening, and a lot of guys caught fish a lot of different ways, but there wasn't really any like the big fish for the tournament was only 457. It was a spot. Chatoog has some big largemouth in it, and it has some big spots in it. There was only about 4 total fish weighed in over 4 pounds. Total,
that's kind of interesting.
and they were all spots. Or well, one was a largemouth, the other 3 were spots. So basically, cut right to the chase with how everybody else caught them. The way me and Bronson caught them was over a 70-foot bottom, and they were about 10 to 15 feet below the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And they were on a school of herring that was about this big. No joke.
Now you say that big on your graph.
No, because I was snagging some on a Vision 110+1.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention that.
I snagged some. I threw jerkbait out there, and I snagged some like on 3 straight casts, and I put the jerkbait down, and I was like, this ain't happening. Bronson slings a 1/4 ounce spot choker with a 2.8 Kitech on the back of it, and between the two of us, he commences to take 13 straight casts between the two of us, and we put 13 straight fish in the boat, all in the 2.5 to 2 3/4 pound range, like that,
like really quick.
Yeah, and a lot of guys caught some other fish shallow. One of the surprising things that I had learned that day was that there was some guys who had caught around 12 to 13 pounds for their 5 fish limit. We ended up with like 1285, I think, or whatever it was. A lot of the guys who had the 12, the 11 to 13 pound range, a lot of guys caught their fish outside of us running pocket to pocket to pocket where there was shade, and they were throwing little bitty Kitechs up on the bank where there was actually had some herring and threadfin had got pushed up into the backs of the pockets.
Okay.
And so they were basically running and gunning. Not some crazy weights by no means. Just right over 18 pounds one, 17 pounds was second, and then just under 16 was third.
Okay.
So it was no blow away
right
type deal where there was just a bunch of big bags of fish weighed in. But
right.
Overall, everyone but one team caught a limit.
Okay.
I got 19 teams.
I've got some questions for you, but I'm going to read a couple of comments. Ron Swinford caught a couple of fish on top water. I think he said he had about 8 pounds for his best 5 at Allatoona. Yeah. That's the lake he was talking about. But I just noticed he had some top water right there. And got a question right here from Southeast Georgia kayak bass fishing. Does Chatoog have smallmouth? And I want to say it still has a few. Now, am I correct in that? I think it's like most of the lakes up there, the spotted bass have kind of run them out.
Blue Ridge and Chatoog still have some smallmouth, but you got a better opportunity on Blue Ridge than you do on Chatoog by far to catch a smallmouth.
Right.
Some people argue that it's non-existent in Chatoog.
Well, I noticed that, our buddy Jonathan Farmer calls those unicorn fish, especially at Notley. Notley used to have smallmouth in it as well. So, and you guys on TikTok, if you got any questions or comments for Ryan, make sure you put them on there. Now, going into Chatoog, though, I know you just talked about catching fish over a 70-foot bottom, but you were targeting shallow to start off with.
Yeah, we started shallow and caught some on spinnerbait, but they were all buck bass, and they were little. Never really found a big female or anything like that. We didn't figure those fish out on the main lake until pretty much I rolled up to a place and I was like, let me check this out, because we had not fished anything main lake yet. And the first place that I pull up main lake, we end up finding that spot up there by the dam.
Right.
And it was kind of a weird tournament. It was kind of a weird situation. A couple of my buddies that we were talking to on the phone off and on all day throughout the tournament. Some of them were catching, one of my buddies said he caught a limit at their first spot up the lake in about 12 casts on a jig.
On a jig?
Yeah.
So I had a jig
bite
going.
All they had was about 11 pounds was all he said they had. But they caught all of them out of 35 feet of water on a jig.
Now, were those spots or largemouth?
Spots.
Spotted bass.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
Had a tournament Hickory Flat. Yeah, Hickory Flat OMC. We got to make him shorten up his daggum name. It's
Yeah.
hard to read there. So Drew, anyway, we know him as Drew here at the shop. They had a tournament on Blue Ridge last Sunday, and only one smallmouth was weighed in, which, you know, it's kind of sad being that 20 years ago you could go up there and just target smallmouth. And I'm sure the guys that fish up there a lot more than we do probably still can, but they're definitely fewer and farther between. Now, let me ask you this about Chattooga. What was the variations in the water temp from the time you started to the time you finished?
Well, I found in the afternoon after we had what we had, we kept catching some fish doing kind of the same thing, and they weren't helping. They're all just the same size fish. We didn't have no big fish. They were all cookie cutter the same size, 2.5, 2.3/4 pounders.
What was the water temp when you started?
When the water temp started, it was 54 degrees. I found on Garmin late in the afternoon because we fished till 4.
Right.
We fished a long tournament. I think it was 58.
They come
was
up
the hottest that I had found.
So that water's still pretty cool.
The water was still pretty cool, and that was in stained water.
Okay.
That was down the river.
Okay. Do you think bed fishing played any part of your tournament at all?
No, because we didn't see any beds.
That's what I was going to say. Did you see any beds
I
anywhere?
did not see any beds anywhere.
Okay, so
I did not see any at all.
and that goes to what you were saying is that they're behind.
Yeah.
Chattooga's behind right now
Yeah.
because on the other lakes that we're going to talk about, we are starting to see bedding fish.
Oh yeah, especially on Lanier, it's wide open.
Okay,
It's pretty wide open. That first major wave has pulled up,
right,
and it's spawning.
If you had to go back to Chattooga this Saturday, how would you change your approach? Would you be looking for bed fish? Would you be fishing shallow, or would you go back and target those fish you found suspended over the deep water?
This Saturday, I would have played it the same way I did last Saturday.
Okay.
Because this time of year, I try to fish for fish that are coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
I try to go to the places where they should be going to, and I try to put myself in a position to be where the fish are going to. I don't really want to go this time of year to where the fish already are, so to speak. I want to go find the fish that are coming to me. The reason why I want to find fish that are coming to me is because generally when you find fish that are coming to you, they're bigger than the fish that are already there.
Okay.
Especially right now when you're talking spawning areas, that's the big key.
Okay. What did you start out throwing first thing in the morning?
Started throwing a swim bait and a spinner bait.
So you didn't go with a shaky head or nothing like that?
No, we didn't pick up shaky head till about 9, and Bronson caught the first one. He picked up a wacky and threw it up here by this dock, and I don't think the Nico rig wacky worm hit the bottom.
Okay.
He set the hook, and there was number 1. And kept fishing a little bit more, kept fishing. The rain finally had moved out. When the rain had moved out Saturday, then all of a sudden it was like kind of like a light switch for the shallow fish. But the shallow fish were all buck largemouth. They were
buck
all
largemouth.
They were little fish. They were 13, 14, 15-inch largemouth.
Yeah.
And one spot.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think the comment Justin Speece has on right there, fish were already on bed at Black Shoals last weekend. And if you know anything about Black Shoals, that's a little bit south of Atlanta or southeast kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting is that within like 30 miles north,
Mm-hmm.
if you cut into sections of 30 miles north, how the fish are staging just a little bit different based whether you believe it's on length of days or water temp, whatever, it is kind of apparent that the fish are farther behind as we move more north, which is typical.
Ryan's observation there is correct, though. It's more based on elevation.
Yeah.
With Chattooga.
Yeah. Well, as you get down into the lowlands, like those lakes just warm up faster.
I mean, like if I was going to Oconee or Sinclair this weekend, I wouldn't even probably do anything but look.
You'd bed fish straight.
I'd straight up bed fish.
Okay.
I wouldn't even probably. I'd probably I'd maybe throw like a buzz bait or a horny toad or something first thing just to see floating worm. See if, and the main instance with the methylate trickworm down there would be one come out and show itself,
and
then watch it
see
and
what it
watch where it
does.
turns around and goes back to, and then go up there. And generally, they're probably going to be a bed.
Let's hit that real quick. So you use that methylate worm as getting the fish to show themselves.
Yeah, they'll show. Yeah, if you throw it in front of one, they'll. Well, it's like that one that I caught Monday on it with you. That blowdown 4 foot deep, but it come out of the end of the blowdown.
Right.
Very possible that fish was either had a bed right there at the end of the blowdown where you couldn't see it because that was in some stained water and it came out of nowhere to eat it. Sometimes they'll eat it. Sometimes it depends upon how locked onto the bed they are.
Right.
If they're really, really locked onto the bed, they won't really eat it.
Okay.
But they'll follow it.
Okay.
Or they'll boil on it and they'll show themselves.
Yeah. Jaden Stein, if you hang on long enough, as soon as we get through talking about these lakes, we're going to talk about bed fishing a little bit more, and then we will tell you how to do that. So, but Shattuck, nothing on the bed as of this past weekend that you could see. Okay. So there you go. All right. I'm going to transition from Shattuck to Latham Reservoir. And if you know anything about Latham, where it's at, it's right up here from the shop, right here at the studio. It's probably 10 minutes, if that, 10 minutes maybe. 340 acre watershed reservoir. And there's several guys in the comment section like Kurt Hunting. And Kurt, you can also talk about Hartwell. And well, there's one Jason was talking about. He fished that tournament. He caught 9 total, all on a wacky, mostly around docks. Seems like you can catch them however you want right now. The fish are so scattered. Now on Latham, right now the water is stained compared to what that lake normally is. Normally it's a very clear lake, and the farther you get up towards the waterfall where the water comes in, the dirtier it gets. I fished it Saturday and yesterday. I normally fish that lake, and the wacky rig is one of the best things you can throw on Latham. And I normally have a lot of success. It's kind of hard to throw the shaky head because of the grass what do we call that? Just snot grass. I mean, what is it called? It's slimy.
Shattuck slap up with it.
And Shattuck has it.
Yes.
Lanier's getting it as well.
Oh, it's worse.
I don't even know what they call it, but
it's worse than
algae.
It's
algae. That's
borderline.
exactly what it is.
It's getting borderline. Shattuck's getting borderline burden now.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So anyway, I had the idea that was what I was going to catch most of my fish on throughout the tournament. The thunderstorms rolled through quick enough to where the rain had stopped by the time we were putting our boats in. Now, I had a tip from, again, I'm going to bring Jonathan Farmer's name up in. I asked him, hey, maybe give me a little juice on something you might throw to catch some largemouth, because Latham has largemouth and spots. And he suggested a scrounger. And so because it was still overcast, I went to my first spot. I had a pulse fish, or is it pulse jigs? Is it pulse jigs?
Pulse fish.
Pulse fish.
It's a scrounger head.
That's scrounger head. Put a white fluke on because it was still overcast. Went to what I consider one of the few true ledge kind of situations on Latham. First cast, 4 largemouth. Third cast, caught a 3-pounder. I thought that was on. Hooked up one more fish, and then that bite just died. Saw some schooling activity, but not like I normally see. But we fished around that lake like crazy, and we threw, the water temp when we started was 58. It got up to 62. We fished till 3:45, so a little bit later, and turned bluebird skies, but the wind picked up like crazy. I can tell you this, at least for us, the shaky head bite was non-existent. Any worm bite was non-existent. Crankbait bite was non-existent. The only thing we could catch fish on after those two with the scrounger was actually taking the 2.8 threadfin Kitech and put it on a little dirty head jig with the, what is that? It's that smaller hook. Is it a 1/0 or?
Well, number 1.
Oh my gosh. A 1/0 hook and just basically slow rolling it. And that was the only way we caught fish. Now, I know that we did see some beds. And again, on Tuesday when I went back, we saw beds as well. But if they had anything on it, it was a little buck bass. We didn't see any big females at all, during that tournament. Now, I know some people like
Tell them what big fish was.
Some people, big fish. I had big fish. It was that first one I caught. It was 334, which is not really good for Latham. So kind of a little bit worried about the fishery there, but I don't think anybody talked about seeing any really big fish. Now, if you were going to Latham tomorrow, what would you throw? knowing what you know about that lake, not based upon what I'm saying, what would you throw? Water temps right around 60. Fish kind of moving up, but there's still fish deep.
It'd be hard for me to. It'd be hard for me not to throw a spinnerbait,
Okay, I was going to say
especially in the
water
wood.
is stained.
especially in the wood.
All right, so a lot of people thought that.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought, and I did as well, spinnerbait in the stained water. Nothing, absolutely zero. I did.
It can turn on like that.
It can, but there was nothing. I did hear of a couple guys later in the day catching them actually on a chrome Seville. You know, that kind of shocked me. Kurt Weehunt, again, in the comments section, fished it. He went through 5 swimmers, tore up getting by the small buck. So no big fish whatsoever. And I think that's kind of strange again, but I am starting to see some beds along the bank. Again, few and far between, no big ones. So I don't know where Latham is exactly at right now. I took my daughter's boyfriend fishing yesterday. I took 4 dozen crappie minnows thinking, well, if nothing else, I'll go over there and teach him how to fish by catching crappie on Latham. Normally I can go over there and just pop all the crappie I want. 2 crappie all day. It's like the crappie were non-existent and the fishing is non-existent. So I don't know if it's the water quality on Latham right now. I don't know if it's the time of the year. I just don't know. What do you think? How can a lake be very fast and just all of a sudden nothing? And it's been that way for about a month or so now.
Water quality on different bodies of water does impact springtime fishing. Granted, they're going for the warmest water they can find. However, they also want really good, clean, oxygenated water. Just because of biology. I guess is
Mother Nature.
Mother Nature is, I guess, the way of putting it. But you hear about it on Allatoona all the time. You know, Allatoona doesn't exactly have the greatest water quality by any means. For the most part of the year. If you have fish that are used to good quality water and they don't have good quality water one year, it will definitely affect that springtime spawn bite.
And that might be the
they
case.
will adapt if it stays that way. Like the next year, if it stays that way again, they will adapt.
Well, we've had a ton of rain over this winter, and they're doing some construction on the golf course over by Latham. So I don't know if that's contributing to a little bit of the extra silt, because normally that lake, you okay?
Yeah.
You trying your best not to yawn? It's been a long day, ain't it?
It's been a long day. We got up early this morning.
We did get up early this morning. One of them business meetings at 7:45. We can thank Josh for that. With all that construction, it's normally a very clear lake. So you're thinking that maybe because
it's been traditionally, for as long as I've noticed, been a clear lake.
I would say visibility on the lower end of the lake's maybe a foot. On the upper end towards the waterfall, it was terrible.
Yeah, and that's
yesterday. It was terrible.
That's completely backwards from where it's been when I've experienced Latham, where down near the boat ramp, if it hadn't rained in nearly a week and a half, you see 4 or 5 feet down.
Yeah, you can't do that anywhere in that lake right now.
Yeah, so that does have a lot to do with it, which will impact the water temperature swings pretty bad.
Right.
Especially like this week, Monday night, which is, I ain't trying to get ahead, but Monday night when we went to Lanier, we saw 64.
Yeah.
63, 64. I was told today by an unnamed source that he fished from daylight till about 4. And at daylight this morning, he started out with just a tad over 58. The warmest he found today was 61.
And it was warm.
So but those last 2 nights of it dropping into the mid 30s,
it has
changed everything again. And you take Lanier, for example, right now, all the backs of the pockets are all stained.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the fish are going to. Well, you get it like this morning when it was 37 degrees at daylight, that smashes them in the mouth to an extent because the water temperature will change so rapidly.
Now, do you think it affects the bedding fish more than it affects just those that are not ready to bed that are
It
just
affects the
feeding?
bedding. It affects the lookers.
The lookers?
Yeah, it affects them pretty hard.
Okay.
But I mean, if you get a warm day like it was today, where then it started out cold and then got up into the 60s, by this afternoon, you'll go back up there and you'll see them again.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
They'll show back up like popcorn.
Yeah. In the comment, Kurt Wehunt, he fished that tournament with me. And he said I missed his bed fish by just 10 seconds, which is true. We come by and I could tell Kurt was bed fishing. I told my brother-in-law, I said, Kurt's got him one over there on the bed. And the reason I knew it is he had his pole out and he was tapping his pole, trying to get that vibration into that line to his lure. So I knew that, but
Vibration.
Yeah, but vibration. What else? What do you want to call it? What else am I supposed to call it?
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle,
The
wiggle,
wiggle, wiggle. Do the wiggle, get jiggy with it right there. Huh?
Wiggle, wiggle,
Huh?
wiggle.
Vibration.
Vibration. What else would you call it?
When you do that with the rod, when you have a bait in a bed, is because if you jig it with your hand like this, you move it off the bed. I don't give a damn how good you think you are, you will move it off the bed. But when you slackline it and then you with the rod tip, you impart action in the bait where it doesn't move.
And how does that action get to the bait?
You
Through the what?
You're
Through the what?
You're tapping it and
I
you're moving
understand.
the rod tip
And-
slightly harder, but not as hard when you're moving it like this.
And what transfers that to the?
Fine vibration.
Thank you.
Vibration.
Anyway, though, but he said if he, oh my Lord, he said if he was going to Latham today, he'd have a 3-3 swimmer, his drop shot, flatworm, nose hook, and a weightless fluke. 3 rods only. Go ahead. Are y'all getting ready to sing?
I'm picking up good vibrations.
Oh Lord, listen, it's been too daggone long of a day.
Good vibrations.
Jeez, Lord, I think this is a
She's
good time.
giving me
This is a good time to
excitation.
shout out another one of our fine sponsors, Buford Dam Bait and Tackle, located on Buford Dam Road. If you'll pull it up there, I'm terrible at remembering the address.
Gotcha.
Is right there, 2595 Buford Dam Road, Cumming, Georgia, 30041. You can call them at 706-429-7211. Dave Allen and the guys, great guys, just like us. You hear me say it every week. They're going to give you what you need, not what they want to just get rid of. They're going to tell you what the fish are biting. If you're catching anything on Lake Lanier, whether it be spots, stripers, crappie, they got you set up. If you're into the trout game, hey, right there below Buford Dam, they got stuff for that too. So make sure you check out our friends at Buford Dam Bait and Tackle. Tell them the guys at Fish North Georgia sent you, and we appreciate them guys. So yeah, so it
Is
looks
your
like,
boyfriend okay?
hey, would you hush? So yeah, Tatum, how you doing? Kurt, we hunt. I love tapping my rod.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible right there.
We will
Right there
come-
where
we
my
will
daughter
Keep that
got
to
on.
yourself.
We will
Kurt.
comment on the 27-pound bag on the near shortly.
We will. We're going to get to that.
Patience,
Patience right there. So
everyone.
anyway, appreciate the guys at Buford Dam Bait and Tackle. So anyway, Latham, if you're going to fish Latham in the next week or so, my advice to you is this: you can still catch them on the small swim baits. You're going to catch those spots that are schooling. I think the bass are getting ready to be on bed. I counted 7 beds yesterday, but every one of them had about a 12 to 14-inch buck bass on it. No big females were up.
They was either gone or they ain't.
I don't think they were
yet.
gone. I don't think they were
Well,
gone
there's
yet.
only one in between. There's only one or two ways.
I don't think they've come
They
up
was
yet.
either gone
They're not gone.
or
They're not.
made it there
They're not.
yet.
They're not gone yet.
Like the
I
one
think they're
seen
coming.
Mondays, he didn't have a female
Yeah. So
in the darkness.
in the darkness. So now, all right, we've covered Chattooga, we've covered Latham. We're going to talk about Lake Lanier, all right, because I know that's where a lot of you guys fish. Lake Lanier is the mothership that rules
Straw
the
that
roost
stirs the
around here.
drink.
It is. It
It's
is.
the best bass fishing in Georgia.
Well, I'm partial to it. I like it. I'm partial to it.
It's probably the best bass fishery in Georgia now. 2
Listen,
years ago, I would say
Jeremiah.
no, but it's probably
there
the
are
best.
3-pound crappie in Latham. I don't care what anybody says. I've seen them. They're there. They just were not biting the other day. So Monday night, actually Monday during the day, Ryan gets this idea. He goes, let's go fishing. Let's go fishing. He's been throwing it, and he just didn't want to work. And granted, I didn't either. So I said, all right, let's go. So we headed off to beautiful Lake Sidney Lanier for now until they change the name.
Looks like I don't want to do nothing.
No, I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing you. So we headed off to Lake Lanier. We put in at Thompson Creek. We wanted to play a little bit with the GoPros that we got and some mics, stuff. I almost said stuff like that. But we wanted to play with those things, and we were going to do some fishing. And so, Ryan, I'm going to let you kind of describe what Monday night was on Lake Lanier. Water temp, kind of clarity where we were at.
From the get-go?
Yeah, I'm going to take that
All right,
buzzbait away from you if
All
you
right,
don't
so
answer.
from the get-go back down to the ramp, and I had took everything off the boat except for one strap.
Oh, yes.
And Danny keeps backing down the truck. I'm like, damn, dude, don't run my boat into back of my tailgate.
Listen,
So
all I know is
I had to go
looking
back
up.
there and reach back underneath the water and unstrap my boat. And I was like, okay, you're good. Don't worry about it. So we started out with a bang.
Yeah.
Something that I haven't done in probably 3 years is do that.
I understand.
But you know what?
It's what it
going
is.
to happen again. First place we went to, a honey hole.
Mm-hmm. That we're not going to say.
A honey hole that they always typically sit on. They were not there.
They were not there.
Went off that honey hole and went to the back of that pocket. And Danny presumes to catch. I tell Danny, I said, throw over there. And he throws over there. And he presumes to catch one, I don't know, 12 inches long.
Maybe. It wasn't very big. It wasn't very big. It was a largemouth, though.
But no, it doesn't matter what size they are, because when you're running out there like that and you only have about 2 hours to fish, you're looking for a clue. Mm-hmm. Well, Danny threw back there in 11.7 inches of water, and there one was. So I was like, ha ha, that's a clue, like Scooby-Doo. And so we left, and I said, I want to check one more place before we do that. So we went to one more point, and we fished it. And I caught one that come off about halfway back to the boat, about 2.5 pounder spot. Then you had another bite. Mm-hmm. No, you had 2 bites.
2 bites.
You didn't put either one of them in the boat.
Short strike.
Short strike.
Very short.
But it was an atypical place for this time of year where there should have been some spawning spots.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, there's another thing. Well, then we turned around, and we spent way too much time on that spot. Just because I was like, don't want to give up on it, because I knew we'd catch some off of it. And we got bit, but only really put a hook in one.
And we did not use electronics. We're just fishing what we saw.
Did not use any electronics whatsoever. So then I ran to another spot, which if you watch the TikTok and stuff, and you watch the video that I put on the group page, you would know that it is Athens Boat Club. It is in the very back of Athens Boat Club. And we go back there all the way, and I catch one on a floating worm.
You did. It was pretty fun to watch.
And yeah, it's always exciting. If you don't like catching fish on a floating worm, you need to pick up golf.
I agree.
There's a lot of things that if you don't like catching them on, you need to go pick up golf. Or
I think a golf course is a perfectly good waste of deer woods, but that's just me. Sorry to all you golfers out there. Golfers.
So anyway, so we get back in there, and there's a big old bust as we're going back in there. There's a big old bust in the back. And as I'm looking, the sun has started to set behind the tree.
Paint that picture, baby.
The sun's just going down under the treetops, And all of a sudden, in the back there, like 4 foot of water, you can see it raining back there. Raining, indicating that there was bait back there running along the surface around. So we get back in there. I keep throwing floating worm. Don't get a bite. I'm turning the boat, and I'm like, damn, can't believe I didn't get one to bite. And Danny goes, I got one. This is the only way to describe it.
I got one.
Yeah, I got one.
That's what I say.
And I turned around, and I was like, is it a good one? And about that time, it goes, whoo. And I'm like, oh, God, it is a good one. And about that time, it come up and just and back into the water. And I was like, oh, God, here we go. Danny's got him a good one.
Danny's got a good one.
He's like emotion. He has like zero emotion. He's back there like stiff. He's like, this is my $1 million moment.
I don't know about that.
And
you're full of it.
Anyway. And so it comes by, it comes near the boat. It comes near the boat. As soon as I get down in the seat, it comes by the boat, and it takes off that way. So for the comments of people's like, where was your net, man? Listen, there wasn't no damn way in hell I could have got the net underneath it anyway.
We wasn't messing with it. We wasn't messing with the net anyway.
We wasn't messing with it anyway. If you fish
that was me.
Was that you?
Well, there was a couple people on TikTok too, Paul, that said that too on the video on TikTok. But if you fish with me, we don't really use a net, even though I have one. We boat flip.
We had boat flipped all
we
day.
boat flip them. So anyway, so it takes off and starts going off, and Dave's like, "Oh no!" And I was like, "Oh no!" And then I see a Ned rig dangling in my face. I was like, "Oh no, it come loose!" And but anyway, but that fish was over 5 pounds.
It was a largemouth.
I got a really, really good look at it.
It was a largemouth.
real good look.
Yeah,
at
we
it.
looked at
it. It was well over 5 pounds. But again, she was where she was supposed to be, though. She was back there in like less than 4 foot of water in the back of a calm pocket.
Yes.
Where is atypical, for those of you guys who may or may not know, that is the kind of stuff that you want to look for when you're looking for largemouth.
Yeah.
Is especially in the spawn, you want to find calm, collected water that is off the main lake.
Yeah, and we don't want 800 boats in the back of Athens Boat Club tomorrow, though. So it was just a 5-pounder. It wasn't a 15-pounder.
No, yeah, it was just it's atypical. I always catch one that big back there every spring. So,
yeah, and I'll say this
for a long time back there.
Yeah, so. And you said that you thought we'd get some back there.
Yeah, I mean, I took you back in there. I did tell you. I don't know if you remember. I told you. I said you're gonna stand if I don't get it. I said you'll get a chance. You'll have a chance.
Yeah. So Ryan was going with the floating worm, which, like Michael Temples had a comment, a floating worm bite is about as good as a weightless fluke bite. I agree, and it was methylate. I know Ron said he threw it all day and didn't get a single bite, but I'm telling you, it does work. I watched that spot come up and just obliterate it. But he, excuse me, Ryan was going down the bank with that, and I was coming behind him with a 5-inch softy, green pumpkin worm, no flakes, no colors, and I had it on an 1/8 ounce, one of our 1/8 ounce weedless net heads because I wanted to slow the fall rate down and not make as much of a splash. But that's probably why I didn't boat flip that one, because I knew the hook I had in it. But it was in that little bit of a bend, it was right there. It was perfect. And so what was the water temp back in there again?
Back there was 65.
65-degree water temp.
Yeah.
And I turned around a couple of casts later and caught another spot.
Yeah, you caught. Yeah, so the pattern, as we joked, ended up being throw your shaky head up towards the bank and just reel it back.
Yeah, because I had a couple of followers.
Because he was reeling it back after a cast on that Ned worm, and just missed it. And then he threw up there to a piece of brush that was up there, and I guess it bit within 5 seconds?
5 seconds. It wasn't down there long.
It was like a 2.5, 2 3/4 pounder. It wasn't a bad fish by no means.
It was.
I was kind of like, huh. And anyway, then we ended up about running out of time. So,
about running out of time. But what we did see a few beds.
It's in 2.
And
yeah,
just bucks.
One was empty.
Yeah, one was empty.
One was empty. The other one just had a buck on it. It didn't have anything else.
Right, but that thing was in shallow water. It was very shallow in the back, again, of a pocket. We noticed that. We didn't use any electronics, so we weren't looking for bait. I don't even think, you might have cut it on, but we didn't do too much scanning with it or anything. We were just basically going down the bank because we only had like an hour or so.
We didn't get there till 5:30.
Right.
And by 7:30, it's almost dark. 7:45, it's almost dark.
Right. So but the fish were biting. They were shallow. They were
we spent
back
too
there.
much time on that second point, but that's my fault.
But that was okay. But it was your typical point that you look for. Had some rock right on the end. On the end, had a little clay bank on the side with some rock off of it. So it was exactly what we were targeting, where we figured there'd be some spawning spots on. Now, do you think the spots have started to spawn yet?
No.
Okay. So the spots are still in the chase mode.
You won't start seeing pairs of them pulled up together to the water temperature, like stay solid mid 60s. They just typically don't, frantic credit. Appreciate your
get rid of that there, Paul.
Yeah.
If y'all guys want credit, Frantic Credit is in the comment section. They guarantee the best rates.
Where credit's due.
They're looking for our viewers, our followers, and chat bots. So if you're into the chat bot game and you want incredibly flexible and convenient order management panel, everything is in your hands. Turn it on, turn it off, customize. Go to doggytype.com. Doggy Hype. Anyway, heck with you, Frantic Credit. Get off our show.
But just like largemouth, you'll have that first wave pull up, and you'll have some that'll spawn early.
Okay.
But that real good spot spawn don't happen until the water temperature gets into the mid.
So there are some spawners because Derek White said he caught some off of a bed this week.
Yeah.
Port Royal area. So there you go, like that. Let's hit that comment real quick. Any advice on fishing Lake Burton this time of year for our Facebook
Do
user?
you want to catch fish or do you want to see fish?
Let's go with catch. Let's go with catch fish on Lake Burton right now.
Mag draft.
Mag draft.
Yeah.
And some guys are throwing that on Lanier.
Mm-hmm.
So a mag draft. I don't know if you're familiar with a mag draft, but what, 8-inch, 7-inch, 8-inch?
You'll either catch fish or
you're going to see them.
You're going to at least see them on Burton right now on a mag draft, especially around docks and stuff like that. They'll come out on those wood post docks and you'll be like, God almighty.
What a fish.
Yeah.
I saw a guy on TikTok today that was throwing a 16-inch, 24-ounce swim bait. He really wasn't throwing it. He was more lobbing it. He said the reason he throws it was not to catch fish, but to make them come out from under the dock and at least follow and view to see what in the world was going in front of the dock. So that might be the ticket for Burton right now. If you're throwing a mag draft up and around docks, if nothing else, you might at least see the fish that are there. And then if they're not hitting a mag draft, you can target them however you want. If you were not going to throw a mag draft, what would you throw? Maybe a secondary solution. You go after those with a jig or anything, or is it too grassy?
Nah, you can't. Nah, you can't really fish a jig or anything on the bottom too much on Hartwell anymore. There's
Burton.
I just seen Hartwell right there. That was caught my eye. It's hard to fish. There's a handful of places you still can on Burton, but you can't just do like la 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 and just fish on the bottom anywhere that like let's fish slow here.
Right.
90% of the time you're like, let's fish slow here, and the first cast you're like, ugh, and you got slime and
you got that slime.
Some of the there's hydrilla in Burton and stuff now, especially on the northern end of the lake, and in Wildcat Creek there's hydrilla in the lake now, but you can fish around the hydrilla. My advice really would probably be though, I was going to go to Burton outside of like a swim bait, like a big swim bait. I'd probably throw a swim jig.
Okay. Because of that around that hydrilla and stuff?
Yeah, well, just because it's something that I could keep moving.
So you would keep it moving
it's a
no matter
decent
what.
size profile bait, something that you could tease one into biting.
Okay, well, there you go. So I hope you go catch some definitely up there at Lake Burton. Georgia boys heading up to Hartwell in the morning. Curious what the water temps would be. Last week he saw 57. I would imagine it's going to be like Lanier. Had some cool nights. Probably going to start off in the 55 to 58 range and then get up in the low 60s if we have a warm afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine possibly bedfish come to play there as well.
On Hartwell this weekend, especially if you're going to Hartwell this weekend, I'd really be post 11 o'clock. I would be really spending a lot of my time. If that is what you want to do, I'd be looking for bed and largemouth.
Now, Hunter Melton's comment right there, he caught a bunch around Toto. Is that up there on Hartwell?
No,
did he meant to say well, that's what I wanted to make sure before. He probably meant to say Toto. I just want to make sure Toto, he wasn't responding to that comment.
No,
so,
Toto. Up Chestatee.
Okay, up the Chestatee. So around, caught a bunch of deep fish around Toto on Saturday in the rain.
And that's where if you're not catching fish on any of these lakes, if you're not catching fish really shallow, like in spawning areas where they should be, your best second bet would be to fish kind of deep.
Okay.
And when we say deep, I mean, we're not talking 40 foot, 30 foot.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking 15 or deeper, 15 to 25.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to have a lot of those fish that are going to be waiting still for the water temperature. They're what we call the second waves, and the second wave is always the one that has. They're laying everywhere,
right?
And the second wave happens, so that they'll be. You're going to have another that full moon. If the weather continues to say it is, but that full moon next week's going to do a lot of. I want to say do a lot of damage.
Right.
So I'm going to say
ain't no fish in Toto. James Collins says right there. So also a Georgia boy, check out Kurt Wehunt's last couple of comments. He fished Hartwell on Sunday after he fished Latham with us, and so he kind of gives you a little bit about what he was seeing up there. So make sure you check out that. And again, anybody that comments, if you can help out anybody by giving some information like that, we sure do appreciate it. And Kurt, absolutely thank you very much for throwing that in there. Now, question, what worm is that on the shaky head Ryan is holding? So, Ryan, what are you holding up right there?
It was a Berkeley Powerbait Max Scent Magnum Hitworm.
Okay.
And this one just so happens to be in plum apple.
In plum apple color.
Not my number one choice for this time of year. I'd be going either green pumpkin or green pumpkin purple flake. And if you want to try some, just come over here to Fish North Georgia. We got plenty of them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the only shaky head I've been throwing here lately is the Softy 5-inch, just straight green.
It's really good profile though.
It is a good profile, and I've caught a bunch of fish on the those Max Scent hit. That's what 7-inch, the 7-inch hitworm. So Mike Temples, how was Latham? Real quick, I missed that part of the conversation. Slow, and slow. That's about the only way. The only way I could catch fish, scrounger head, and a 2.8 Kitech and threadfin. That's it. Tried it 2 days, and that's what I caught fish on. No worm bite whatsoever, no jig bite, no crankbait bite, no spinnerbait bite, which absolutely shocked the daylights out of me. I will say though that I took my daughter's boyfriend over there. He's new to bass fishing. Towards the middle part of the day, I actually gave him a fluke. I said, because we were hearing them bust along the bank, a lot of bucks along the bank. And he threw it, and he did get blowed up on it twice. So I got to work with him on that hook set, but they did hit a fluke. So I don't know if that helps you any at all, but the water is very stained, very, very stained for Latham. It's kind of sad to see it that stained. So now good. He wondered if it was just me. No, the weights in our tournament, 12.7 won it by Chris Gayton. And if anybody knows Chris Gayton in the electric world, he always normally puts up a really big bag. So 12.7 won it. 12.64 was second. And then I had third, 12.3. And then the rest from that point, I got a trophy. Check. I got a trophy, fish for free. But from that point on, the weights really went from 9 pounds and lower. So, not typical Latham fishing. So, again, we had that discussion. Don't know if it's the water quality or what. Real quick, I want to shout out another one of our fine sponsors, especially since Mr. Collins gave us a little no fish in toto. But that's Rachel Collins with 400homes.com. Guys, if you're in the real estate market, you want a real estate agent that's got your back, also one that will work hard, who is honest, got good integrity, and will get you the best deal, whether you're buying or selling, and that's Rachel. And she loves to fish. We want to support our local anglers right there. So you can see her right behind me. Yeah, you see that picture back there. But you can give her a call at 770-310-0599, or you can email her, Rachel, at 400homes.com. And again, it takes all these fine sponsors like Rachel for her and Beaver Dam and a couple more that I'm going to shout out here later that make the live well possible. So thank you very much, Rachel.
If you're interested in being on the live well and being a sponsor, you can hit us up.
That's right. Yeah, we're always looking for new sponsors. So definitely, if your business wants to get out there, hey, we'll throw it out there. But again, Rachel, thank you guys. Seriously, if you're in the real estate market, she's a closer. She can get it done for you. So make sure you give Rachel a call. Now, a lot of the comments, a lot of people talking about what's coming up this weekend. So now we're going to kind of transition into bed fishing. Okay, bed fishing. Whether you're for it or against it, that's not the argument for tonight. What is that?
Somebody watches TikTok.
Okay. Before we get into bed fishing, there is.
I'm gonna let you defend yourself.
I'm gonna defend myself. There is a TikTok out there.
Right there.
When we were in Port St. Joe, that you will see if you go to Fish North Georgia's TikTok, and we want you to go there and definitely follow. But there is a video where you will see yours truly with a spinning reel upside down. Okay, it's the one.
Because you were inverted.
I was inverted. There you go. Top Gun reference. I was inverted, like this. Here's the truth behind that. First of all, Guillermo, who was our guide down there, reels with his left hand. All his spinning reels were so crusted up, and I couldn't get the cap off to switch over because I am one of the few of God's chosen people that do both reels with my right hand. Now, there's a few of us out there, and I'm one of them. I do it with my right hand. However, I could not get his to I just can't do it left-handed. I throw left-handed. I write left-handed. Everything else I do is right-handed. So I couldn't do it. And I said, I just got sick of it. And I will say that we were having a lot of fun on this boat, so there might have been an adult beverage or two that might have been partially responsible. But I turned the joker over and just started reeling it this way. And you can make fun of me all you want, but I actually caught fish that way. So, anyway, I imagine that's our good friend Jonathan Farmer or one of his associates like that. Not something I do every day. However, listen, if all of you guys would reel with your right hand like I do, the world would be a better place. There would be peace on earth.
Proper way.
The proper way. Listen, there would be peace on earth. Everybody, it'd be a kumbaya moment for everybody. Everybody would hug. It would all be great. That's how it is. But anyway, you can go to TikTok and see it for yourself, along with the fish I missed and a choice word or two. But again, if you're on TikTok, definitely go follow Fish North Church. We had a lot of fun with that, and we put a lot of the podcast stuff, little segments and nuggets on there. So
right-handed, baby, all the way.
It is. Listen, Farmer, I'm so disappointed. So that must not have been Farmer. So it must have been probably Dane. It's Dane. So Dane, I'll get you back. I'll get you back, buddy, right there. But anyway, hey, look, I just did it, and it is what it is. Now, the reason Farmer is disappointed is because he actually saw me do that one time in the past as well. However, a fish was already on the line, and Farmer threw me one of his spin reels, and I chunked up under the dock.
Catch a fish.
Catch a fish. I chucked up under the dock. Set the hook on the fish before I even realized that the reel is on the wrong side. So I looked at Farmer. I said, "Don't you tell a soul." I flipped that joker upside down, and I tried to fight the fish that way. So anyway, but it's a lot of fun. And you know what? Huh?
How do I get on your boat?
On our boat?
D-Moore for bass. How do I get on your boat?
If you want to get on our boat, just call. We'll take you fishing. We'll do it like that. So what did Mike say right there?
It's all right, Danny.
I don't recognize that name. So again, if you've been on here, if this is your first time, thank you for joining us tonight. It's all right, Danny. As a lefty, I was 35 years old before I could open a can using a can opener. Hey, listen, I think I was scarred as a youth because as a left-handed child in America back during the 70s, coming up at elementary school, all those desks were set for right-handed people, and they always gave you that pair of little bitty scissors that were set up for right-handed people. So I have a little bit of problem.
And your ink well was up there.
Huh?
And let's get Danny real on. And your ink well was up
in
there.
My ink well up there?
Or you on your right.
Listen, I just turned 51. That's been a long time ago since I've been in elementary school.
But y'all never did have no ink.
We wrote and we had them big old number 2 jumbo pencils.
And
we had to go sharpen our pencil.
That's what I'm saying. Y'all never did have no ink.
We weren't allowed to write with ink. And if you're left-handed like me, if you wrote with ink, by the time you got done, the whole daggum paper was smudged. This world is set up against good-looking left-handed people such as me. But for those of you that are left-handed,
it's right-handed world, baby.
No, we're God's chosen people. The rest of y'all,
God's plan.
Yeah, God's plan. That's exactly right. So anyway, let's talk bed fishing. Let's talk bed fishing. Controversy. We're not going to argue whether it's right or wrong. You guys can do that in the comment section. We're going to approach it as what we're seeing right now. Okay, so right now we're starting to see beds. There was a tournament on Lanier recently.
Last weekend,
where a fine gentleman had a 27-pound bag. And from what we've been told, and I cannot confirm nor deny this,
stacked up.
4 of those came off the bed. Okay, now that's a tournament aspect. Whether you enjoy fishing and you want to do that, I don't care. So it's up to you whether you are for or against it. However, it is bed season in Georgia. I'm sure down south they've been on beds for a while, but as we're moving north, we're starting to see those areas. So how do we want to approach this? We're going to talk about how we would approach, a bed fish. How you want to go with this conversation?
Sure, we can do whatever. We can go however you want.
Well, let's go however we want. Ryan Sheffield, as a shallow water guy and a very good bed fisherman, how does Ryan? First of all, let's talk about the approach, because a lot of people see a bed and they park that boat right on top of the thing.
The approach is probably assessing the situation is probably the most important thing in terms of bed fishing.
Okay, so let's assess it.
Well, you need to be able to.
I did not ride a short bus just because I'm short. I did not, and we love the people that do ride those.
So not every fish that's on the bed when you pull up to it can be caught at that time. Sometimes they're not ready. Sometimes you got to make them mad. sometimes you got to piss them off. Sometimes you got to do this. You got to do that. Understanding and reading a bedfish is probably one of the more important aspects to it. Catching a bedfish when it is ready is like flipping hamburgers. It's not very difficult when one's ready.
It's a $15 an hour job now.
Well, I know, but it's not too it's not rocket science when one's ready, but understanding one to be ready is a whole different ballgame.
Okay, let's approach the conversation from that point of view. I'm going to ask you this question. What is the best way to see if a bass on bed is ready to bite?
Throw at it.
Well, damn.
That's
I was
my
hoping I was going to
approach.
throw
That's
at it.
my approach.
Well, what does that bass tell you that it's ready or not?
Well, if you, for example, if you roll up to one and you see one, all right, well, back up. First of all, when approaching a bed and you see a bed, rule number one from the get-go, the farther away from the bed you are, the easier it is to get one to bite. So bear that in mind.
And that was my comment. A lot of guys roll that boat right up on top of them.
Roll up on that.
You might as well be. You might as well be drop shot.
Do you see it? It's right there.
It's right there. I'm a foot and a half from you.
The trolling
Where are you going? I don't understand why the fish just left.
Yeah.
Okay. So distance
blows my mind.
Distance.
But get as far away as you can. Throw something at it. If you throw up there near where the bed is and you see the bed and you throw up there near the bed and that sucker goes down the bank, well, okay. And move on.
That fish is not ready.
Fish is not ready. You scared the hell out of it.
You're going to sit there for 2 hours trying to catch that fish and he's not going to.
Because she's going to swim off down the bank and about 5 minutes later, she's going to come right back to the bed and you're going to throw, oh, there she is. And you're going to throw back at her again. And she's going to go the opposite direction of where she just came from. So,
let me read this comment real quick from Facebook user. Caught a 3.5 pound buck today. First of all, that's a hell of a buck.
Oh, that's dang.
And the female tried to eat him during the fight. Literally had his head in her mouth, reeled both to the boat, and tried to net both of them. Got him, not her. Mm-hmm. That is an interesting thing.
Yep,
that is an interesting thing. But that's a pretty good sized buck.
Yeah, that's typical Lanier right now.
That's a good buck.
There's a lot of big buck bass on Lanier.
There are.
There's some where you're like, is that the female? Damn.
Right.
No, it ain't neither. That's the female. The other one's over there's the female. And
Sir Uga, or UGAAA,
and if it swims off and doesn't come back, move on. Yeah,
okay, so that's basically
what you said. What I said. So he's got that point locked down.
Oh, Ron, but if the fish are a little skittish, there are tricks to get it to bite. Ron, you need to drop the juice in the comment section and I'll read it out.
Well, I'm about to go into that.
Okay, all right, so you're going to go into that. Mm-hmm. Great minds think alike. We love Ron.
Yeah, we love Ron to death. So I want to hear what Ron has to say too.
Check TikTok real quick. Is that a comment?
If she's locked down, she will bite. If she rolls out and don't come back, she ain't ready. Yep, you're exactly 100% right.
And we appreciate you commenting on TikTok.
That's Tyler Burt.
Oh,
Tyler Burt. He's watching on TikTok.
Why can't you watch on YouTube?
Because Tyler is special.
Good
he's a rebel.
He's a rebel. Rebel without a cause.
He wants to be that.
And don't ever get in a boat with him if it goes fast. He'll scare the hell out of you.
Nah, Tyler's a good driver.
I didn't say he was a bad driver. I said he'll scare the hell out of you.
Well, grow up.
Listen. I just want to get to heaven. I just don't want to get there quick. All right, so keep going. If they're skittish, what are some tricks?
So if one's really skittish, and when I say skittish, it's like this. If you throw up there in the bed and she swims, kind of makes like a little circle, and she swims down, you're like, where the hell are you going? And then she turns around and she comes back. And then she comes back and she'll actually physically look at your bait. And then she'll swim away again. That is when you kind of have to assess the situation a little bit to where you got to see, okay, well, let me reel my bait out of the bed. And when she starts swimming back to the bed, let me throw in the bed into her line of sight. And let's see what she does then. So then that's when that situation arises. I'm about to take over this podcast.
You take it over, baby. Go. It is yours.
So when that situation arises, so then I'll throw into the bed when she's coming back and I'll see her. First of all, I will say this too: if you're going to bed fish and you're going to try to get really good at it, a good quality pair of sunglasses is a must.
Yes, because you were raising Cain the other night.
You need a good quality pair of sunglasses. Polarized sunglasses. Pick a good pair, get them.
Worth the money
for sunny days. You need those amber green lenses. The ones that I have, I typically, because I'm blind and I have to wear glasses. I have a pair of Costas that's just the glass that have the gray. It cuts it fine. It doesn't cut it as good as amber does, but I've seen enough and played enough with bedfish and caught enough bedfish in my life that I can see them pretty good anyway.
The mayor's here.
So and Scott's a good bed fisherman as well. He's a good bed fisherman.
Yeah, don't look for white round beds. You'd be surprised what you will see if you look a little deeper. Many people ride over the giants.
Many people ride right
Thank
over
you,
them.
Scott.
And that is where a good quality pair of sunglasses comes into play. But anyway, back to a skittish female. We will I will basically, when she's coming back to the bed, then I will throw in there in front of her to get her attention. If she kind of looks at it again and then swims back off again, then the bait that I use, which is a 1/2 ounce or 3/4 ounce jig head, that I put a white crawl. I don't play with different colors. I don't give a damn what I want, something that I can see. The people who are like green pumpkin sometimes or sometimes. Nah, you pissed it off enough to where it finally bit whatever you threw.
Beg the difference.
That's just, I'm just telling you. That's just pretty much the way it is.
I know how you are.
I'll argue with people till the cows come home about that, about color.
We've had that argument.
It's more about what the thing about it is. Some people, if I throw green pumpkin, maybe they don't know. Nah, don't be stupid. They see you before you see them. Let's just get that out of there.
Yeah, no, I don't do it.
They see you. There's no, ooh, she don't know I'm there. Nah, she sees you.
Oh, I agree.
She sees a big old glittery boat.
I agree with you.
I agree with you 100%. She hears you coming.
Absolutely.
They know you're there, but they don't have hands. If they had hands, they would just pick a bait up. We would never catch fish off the bed because they would just pick the bait up and take it off and throw it out of the bed every time. That's all they would do. But they don't have hands. They don't have a mouth, so they have to put the bait in their mouth. So I'll reel my bait back up, and went from having the point a little bit out of my plastic to I will take it and I will bury it deep into the plastic where it can't come out. So then when she comes swimming back to the bait and she comes swimming back towards the bed, I'll throw it back in there in her line of sight again. When it comes back over there, if I can get her to try to time it up where I can get her to kind of stop when she stops, and either half of y'all are going to hate me or half of y'all are going to be like, oh my God, I will smack her. I will hit her. And I will try to hit her in the face.
That goes to Ron's thing. Piss him off a little bit.
And it's basically pushing her up, or pissing her off is what I'm trying to do. I cannot tell you how many times I've smacked one in the face and and then come right back again and then throw right back in the bed, and she goes over there and she goes over there and she goes
with her hands,
with her mouth. It's like, okay, she's mad,
right? Because
as soon as you do that and she spits it out, when you throw it back in there again, she's gonna come back up there. She's gonna do the same damn thing again. Mm-hmm. So I will piss her off. Sometimes you have to piss. Sometimes I'll hit them one or two more times. If you hit one like more than twice or 3 times, sometimes they'll leave and they won't come back for a while. But if you hit one and she leaves and then you come back to her in another hour, she's about 99% chance that when you throw right back at her again, she's just going to go over there and she's just going to eat it. They don't have a memory the same way that we do. Right. She's still going to stay fired up for a little while. Mm-hmm. Her estrogen's flowing.
She is a woman.
That's how we'll say.
Sorry, ladies, if you're watching, she is a woman.
I don't know what the biology is and stuff.
Y'all are just crazy, and you don't.
But the biggest thing in terms of and what I use is what I use. That's what I use. you know, if you want to use green pumpkin, if you want to use black, if you want to use a drop shot, you want to use a Senko, fluke, whatever, by all means, do whatever you feel like doing. There are things that, you know, there are some special fish where, you know, they won't eat anything if it's sitting in the bed. You know, sometimes you have to throw something and swim it by them and get it close to their bed in order for them to react to it.
That's what I was getting ready to come up, because if you remember last year on the MPFL, and one of the early things, Jesse Millsaps was fishing, and they had him on camera, and he
Another
had a
good bed fisherman,
excellent bed fisherman. He was throwing a white and orange swim jig. Now, of course, for the visibility, he said, but first couple of times he would actually swim that thing through the bed to see if he could get a strike. Then he would throw back in there, and if there was a buck and a female at the same time, he would say most of the time the buck would pick it up. He would not set the hook on the buck. He would let the buck take it off and drop it. And if that happened 2 or 3 times, eventually the female's instinct would be like, my man can't handle this. And she would take care of it. If they were doing that, he could catch that fish. Now, I remember him telling us about that. Now, how hard is it for you? Do you do anything like that? Do you let a buck carry a bait out of a bed and drop it?
So I had a really, really bad instance about 5 years ago with this. And this is where I kind of changed my game plan, bed fishing. Plus I had probably one of the best bed fishermen ever, period, take me bed fishing. And I learned a lot that day. And I used pretty much everything that he does to a T. And it works. Trust me. So I had about a 3-pound buck and about a 7-pound female. She may have been bigger, but she was at least 7, and about a 3-pound buck. Well, it was in a tournament. I had about 1.5 pound spot in the live well. And I was like, well, damn, that buck will be an upgrade. I was like, well, maybe I'll just catch her, or maybe I'll catch him, because I was thrown into bed. And he was over there like grabbing it left and right, you know, and messing with it and stuff, and biting it and biting the tails off and biting the claws off.
Face the TikTok camera. Don't say anything. Just look and laugh. Sorry, we had a comment that he needed to pay attention to TikTok.
I don't know what that means.
You don't know what
I don't know what that means.
The buck, you're back on the buck.
So the buck anyway, yeah. So the buck anyway, it come up there and it ate it. Well, I'm like this.
So it got tension on it. You can feel them. It's swimming off.
Yeah, well, hell. Set the hook on it. Got it in the boat.
Okay.
Got it in the boat. Boat flipped it. Got it in the boat.
Got your upgrade.
Upgraded cold. Grabbed my bait, fixed it, turned around and looked.
She's gone.
Where'd she go?
She's gone.
She gone. Like, I mean, gone. Like, don't even know where she was. Left. Came back an hour later.
Still gone.
She gone.
She going to find her
She
another
still
man.
wasn't there. So if I can help it, I will try my damnedest to not catch the buck.
Oh, okay.
As best as I can.
Okay.
Sometimes there are instances where, like with the Jesse Millsaps instance, since you had brought that up, there are instances where that happens, where you have to catch the male, or you have to basically let the male pick your bait up and swim off with it, blow it out, go back, throw back up there. Male picks it up multiple times before the female finally does be like, listen, you're not doing your job. Get the hell out of my way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to handle this.
Right.
But everyone is a little bit different.
With that being said, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me correctly, the buck kept carrying it off. He could never get the female to hit, and he needed a fish, and he finally ended up just catching the buck and going on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. And any of you guys in the comments section, if you've had that kind of experience, what do you do if you see a buck and a female at the same time? Do you let the buck carry it off and then try to go to the female? What do you do? Because it's kind of an interesting thing.
It can be a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. There's been many, I'm sure there's been many a tournament. I'm sure if Scott's still watching, I'm sure he's probably got some of those probably where it's experienced him to himself, and maybe some of his other tournaments that he's held where people have been talking about one. Damn, if I hadn't caught that one, and I caught the other one, I wouldn't be standing here with 17, 18 pounds right now. I'd have more.
Right.
Now
that's in a tournament situation. You just got to make that decision based upon what you need.
Yeah, you got to kind of make decisions on a lot of times. But, I mean, the goal for all of you bedfish, if you ever do bedfish or bedfish now, I mean, obviously the goal is to try to catch the female. There for a while, especially on Lanier, the only time I picked fish off the bed was just when I was fun fishing. I never picked them off to take them for a boat ride. That's probably been about the last like 4 years. I refused to catch a bedfish off the bed on Lanier because I need the largemouth. For my summertime bite, I need the largemouth to have as best of a chance at successfully spawning and their offspring living and growing up. But this year is going to be a little bit different because there are more largemouth in the lake.
Largemouth is making a big comeback.
They're making a massive comeback. Okay. And they've been there for a while, but the past 2 years, especially the largemouth on Lanier are, there's a lot of largemouth in the lake that are in the 5 to 7.5, 8 pound range right now. The females.
Right.
It's just figuring out how to, get them to bite at certain times of the year. But bed fishing, we're not going to go into no quandaries over the things about it or anything. But
I do have a good question for you. Let me shout out our final sponsors before I get that. Guys, I want to thank our last 2 sponsors of the night. Red Bobber Gear, all right, local company out of Canton. Everybody knows the iconic Red Bobber. We all threw it growing up. Well, they've got a line of apparel that really is specialized around that, picture of that red bobber, and all the memories that are associated with it. You can go to redbobbergear.com. It's a full line of apparel for men, women, and children. You can support that, those memories and all that with that red bobber. So go to redbobbergear.com, check that out. And also Jason Sayers with Elite Pressure Washing and Landscape, and also J&S Construction. Now he services the Lake Oconee area. He must be doing something right because he's even looking for additional help right there. But if you got anything from new construction, remodel, again, to landscaping, and you just want your place cleaned up, Jason can do everything for you. Give him a call, 706-816-2049. And again, a final thank you to all our great sponsors. Also, too, one other thing, while I got a pretty good crowd on hand, let's shout out the For Her women's. I should have done this earlier in the program. The Women and Children event that's going to be happening April 22nd.
Not many spots left.
Not many spots. They're capping it off at 200 participants, and this is women and children. If you're a husband, you can come with them, but this is for the women and the children. For Her is going to provide a rod, a tackle box, T-shirts, and what we're going to do is give them specialized instruction on the water along the bank. We're not going to be in boats, but we're going to teach them the basics, how to rig up a setup. They're going to be some tackle in that tackle boxes. We're just going to go over the basics because we want to try to get more people involved in the sport of fishing, especially women and children. Let's get these kids away from the Xbox and get them outdoors so that, they can experience something a little more, kind of like what we grew up with when we didn't have technology back then. If we wanted to do something fun, we went outside. Well, let's get that going back. This is a great event. Now, a special thing to all you guys watching. We're still looking for volunteers. Now, these volunteers are going to be the ones helping teach the women and the children to actually use the equipment and what they're trying to do. So if you're free on April 22nd and you can get to the Mary Alice Park on Lake Lanier, we need you to step up. I'm going to be putting this out on the Facebook group page tomorrow. 200 people. What we would like to have is about, 40 more volunteers. We've got a good lineup already, but we definitely need volunteers to get out there. And if you want to just give a little time back to your community, to the fishing community, and to these women and children, please hit us up. You can hit us on Facebook. However, if you got our number, you can give us a call here at the shop. But we need to get more volunteers signed up to help with this event. This is a great, great cause, and I want to thank For Her Outdoors for putting it on. Look for more information on that tomorrow at Fish North Georgia on the group page. Now, here's the question I got. And it kind of goes something with what Scott Barnes said. Okay. Some fish bed deeper than others. We've been talking about shallow. Let's explain the difference between how a largemouth and a spot bed, the different locations, and what they're looking for when they're bedding. So let's take a spotted bass versus. We've been talking mostly largemouth tonight. What does a spotted bass look for when approaching or trying to make a bed?
Well, spots are completely different than largemouth to a certain extent.
Right.
Largemouth generally spawn in 10 foot or less. Spots will spawn in 10 foot or less. The most successful spotted bass bed fishing that I've ever seen and experienced in my life is deeper water beds on humps. Beds that come up on humps in 15, 16, 17 feet of water or so, for example. Those instances where that's happening, they're laying everywhere. Spots, unlike largemouth, will, if something gets near their bed, they will swim way off of it to go attack it.
Much more aggressive.
Yeah, I think many of us have all know that, but have experienced that because there's so many spotted bass fisheries up here. Largemouth need a real good, hard bottom to make that bed. They will spawn on anything hard, whether it's the bottom. They'll spawn next to a stump. They'll spawn on a stump.
That's what I've seen them spawn on a log before.
Yeah, they'll spawn on a log. I mean, they'll spawn in a lot of different places. The spots seem to like sandy pea gravel type areas. Hard, flat, big chunk rock areas, where like big rock ledge type rock is going out into the lake a little ways, that makes a point type deal. They'll spawn on that. Spots will spawn around docks. They will spawn back there where there's largemouth. You'll go back there and be, oh, look, there's largemouth on the bed, and you'll actually catch it and be, oh, damn, it's a spot. There will be some, but the majority of them spawn more
a little
deeper main lake-ish, protected main lake areas.
Not so much in the very back of a pocket.
In the very, very ass end back of a pocket, so to speak. But you will find some that were like spawning behind, like underneath a walkway or stuff like that. Because I've seen them. I know many other people have seen them. But you just don't find them. Like when I'm bed fishing for spots, I want to find that magic area where it's every damn cast.
We've experienced, yeah.
You've experienced it with me. There is every cast there. You're getting a bite.
But you can't sight fish as much for a spotted bass on the bed as you can a largemouth due to them being a little deeper. If the water is not
not clear enough, yeah. It's a little bit harder to do. I like to find the ones, though, I mentioned 15, 16, 17 feet of water, because generally if you throw something up there where that perspective location is, typically if you get it anywhere near their bed, they swim over and they pick it up and they tote it off.
Yeah. No, we've never used a flogger for spotted bass. I'm not saying you can't, but we've never done it.
It's easier to catch spots off the bed
because they're aggressive.
Exactly. A lot of your largemouth bed fishing that you're doing a lot of this when you're looking for them. Spots, you want to go see if an area has any on the bed, pick up a white super fluke or something like that and just fan cast it around. They'll come out of nowhere and they'll try to eat the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they'll get hooked up, however you rig your fluke. I don't really rig a stinger hook on them because I'm not really trying to catch them like that. But if they show themselves, over a 15-foot bottom, they'll come up and they'll come look at a fluke. They'll chase it back to the boat and whatnot.
But they're not typically like a largemouth it's got to be in that bed.
Yeah, and that's there. I've seen many spots bed that you cannot see bed. What Scott just said right there, he kind of took what I was about to get to right out of my mouth right there, where lots of dark areas that have slime grass pockets on hard bottom will have big ones. Yeah, that slime grass on the south end of the lake, it seems like the past couple of years, if you find a protected little cut type place, like right off the main lake or right on the main lake, and it has a dark streak running down the bank, that's that slime grass. You get anything near it, and if it don't make it to the bottom, it's gone.
It's gone.
It's ate.
Absolutely.
But yeah, exactly what Scott. Just pitch in the dark areas and hold on.
Way more
aggressive.
And we found that out just throwing shaky heads in certain spots.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, and you can throw right back in that same spot if you miss it. You'll do it again and again and again.
And that thing that you're talking about, that is the buck. Almost all the time, that is the buck. And you'll and it, oh damn, it's got it, and you'll set the hook. Oh man, I missed it. What you're looking for when you're spot fishing, that spots are on the beds, is you're wanting to go throw it up there, and you scratch your butt or scratch your neck or something like that, and when you reel your line slack up in and look, and the line's swimming off.
Right, yeah, right.
If that's happened, and you got a female, most of the time that's ate it.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't really like thump it. If the females, they just kind of go over there and just
inhale it.
I mean, the only really way I can kind of describe the way that I think it and how they're hooked when I catch them like that is if it's let's just say a shaky head, which is one of the staples that you can do.
Oh yeah, hunter fishing. We covered that. Yeah, we talked about that. Absolutely. Yeah. It was a heck of a sack.
If you throw a shaky head, which is one of the top baits to throw, it's one of the baits that I throw around for when I'm looking for bedding spots. It works. It flat out works. I'm looking for the throw it out there, and it just
you don't really ever even feel it. It's just
and it sometimes I'm like, damn. A Carolina rig. Carolina rig's like one of my favorite things to use, especially on like the humps, on stuff like that where the spots spawn. You'll be dragging that Carolina rig along, and it'll just
the line goes limp. Look at you stretching my shirt there.
That's all they do.
Visual effect right there. People don't need to see that.
And when that happens, you just reel down across their eyes.
Right.
I like a Carolina rig a lot for those bedding spots. Because I get to throw 17-pound main line with 17-pound monofilament and a big old 5/0 hook.
Cross their eyes.
And I like the 7 rod and cross their eyes. Compared to a shaky head where sometimes it's, braid with 8-pound fluorocarbon leader or something like that, for example, 8 to 10-pound fluorocarbon leader. We're going to have this same problem this year, though, but we had last year. If you shaky head fish, use a shaky head for spots on Lanier, specifically, you're going to have to downsize your bait. You're going to have to, downsize the weight of your bait to maybe potentially have to keep it out of some of that sludge.
Right.
Using a typical like 3/16 or something like that, you won't be able to throw a 3/16.
Because you're just going to sludge it up the whole time.
Yeah, it's just going to stay sludged up, and they won't bite it if it's got a bunch of moving slime algae all over it. An 1/8 is really, really good shaky head.
That's what I was throwing the other day.
An 1/8 ounce shaky head is really, really good to use.
What about a mojo rig, Southeast Georgia kayak bass fishing?
I don't even know what a mojo rig
is. You have to explain to us what a mojo rig is. Paul, do you know what a mojo rig is?
I've heard of it, but I don't remember.
So explain to us a little bit in the comment section what a mojo rig is. Educate us, because we're always willing to learn. So basically, in a nutshell, okay, largemouth shallow, you got to put it in the bed. You got to work that a little bit. Spots, shallow, too deep. You're really not sight fishing for spots as much. And basically with a spot, you can just kind of fan cast the area and almost by the way the fish are hitting or the amount of bites you're getting as to whether you're on beds with the spot. Now, do spotted bass like take a particular hump? Do you have a lot of beds on that hump?
Yeah.
Or are they more like the largemouth?
You'll have a bunch of them.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have a bunch of them. There'll be
So it's like a
bunch of
split
them.
shot rig or a finesse Carolina rig. It's fire right now, and nobody talks about it. Well, hell, that's because I didn't even know what it was. So never thrown it, but it seems like if it works for you, definitely throw it.
Sounds to me like an old school Carolina rig.
It does. Yeah. Well, that's what finesse
It says
Carolina
it's fire
rig.
right now. Nobody talks about it, but tell some old timers the way they used to throw a Carolina rig back in the day was put split shots on the end of
Yeah.
it.
So that's what he says. It's like a Carolina rig fished on spinning gear. You peg your cylinder weight and use a number one hook. So definitely going finesse with that. And I imagine on spotted bass that would work. I mean,
They ain't for bedding spots though. They ain't much that don't work.
that is true. We have found that
They
out.
ain't much that don't
You
work.
can throw a wacky in there. You can throw a shaky head in there. You said a fluke, Carolina rig,
red fin.
red fin. We've talked. I mean, there's a boat, but with a bass, with a largemouth, you're pretty much you like the white, but there's just a few different things you can use. Sounds like with spotted bass, hell, everything's on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about somebody that likes to roll spinner baits or anything like that over the beds for either one of them?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you got one that won't chase it like that, it will.
Is that more apt to be a spotted thing though than it would be a largemouth?
Terry Penley, God rest his soul, he used to go to Burton and catch them on spinnerbait. He'd throw spinnerbait on the bed and he would catch them.
Like let it drop in the bed or just coming across?
He would sort of kind of like yo-yo it past them.
Yo-yo it past them.
They would eat it up. He would catch some. He caught some giants doing that up there on Burton. It's just not something that I pick up for bed fishing. Though.
See, that's another thing too about fishing. Old school Sinclair folks called that a window rig after the guy who showed many of us the rig. A technique can change names from lake to lake to lake to lake. Mojo, we've seen that Mojo rig, finesse Carolina rig, the window rig. So throw a 4-inch lizard on that Mojo rig. I imagine that would work too. Now, let me ask you this. If you're fishing in a farm pond and somebody talks about a bed fish, especially with an old timer, they're going to tell you throw a black lizard in it.
Mm-hmm.
How come nobody does that on Lake Lanier or any other lakes like that? Or at least that we've seen. How come nobody throws the old black lizard in the bed? Not sexy enough, or just you tapping your head?
Just mental thing.
Just a mental thing. They just
don't
no
feel
confidence.
I don't feel like it's going to work.
But it probably would.
Back when I was stupid in high school, I mean, we used to throw black blue-tailed lizards because we were like, hell, there's black blue-tailed lizards crawling all over the place. They might eat them things.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so sweet.
So I mean,
that might be a whole nother show.
We were like, Lumpkin County Park, we were going to the lake, and that was where we went, it was Lumpkin County Park.
Right. It's like
we didn't know no better.
It's like the culprit worm.
Yeah.
We all grew up throwing a ribbon-tailed culprit. Now nobody throws a ribbon-tailed culprit. I mean, I'm sure there are that do, but you don't hear of anybody throwing them on lakes like Lanier. Maybe that's the secret to some of these guys coming in with the 27-pound bags. They know
jerk
something
bait
like that.
Works really good, especially if there's herring that are starting to molest a largemouth bed.
Okay, so that goes more into the protective.
And if you've seen
aspect.
one 2 years ago, I had an instance where I about cried because my heart just was breaking for those two fish.
Were they surrounded by herring?
Oh, they were surrounded by thousands.
Which is one of the
and
reasons
she was
why
like
people
8
say
pounds.
bluebacks are bad.
8 pounds, and he was like 5. And I mean, I don't get emotional much, but sitting there watching them, my heart, I had tears well up in my eyes. My heart was breaking because I put myself in that female's shoes watching her. She was getting exhausted.
Running them out
of the way from her bed. And you feel helpless.
Yeah.
But there's nothing you can do. But the herring would to the bed, and she would come out and open her mouth and snap at them, and they would get out of the way, and they'd be like, ha ha ha, and they come over here, and then they come back over here again.
And there's strength in numbers,
too. Strength in numbers. There's thousands of them up there, and it just I sat there for 10, 15 minutes watching it, and my heart just broke because I felt so bad for her.
Right.
I was like, here she is trying to, obviously she has eggs on the bed, and the herring are trying to just do everything they can to eat the eggs.
And that's what they do. That eggs and little fry.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people, there's a big, huge argument in the fishing world. Yeah, a lot of guys say bluebacks are terrible for a lake. Now, granted, they're great for the spotted bass, but with largemouth, the way they spawn, if there's not enough cover for that fry to get into, the bluebacks spawn directly right after, and they just come in and they just terrorize the bed
Elbert
and they just
County,
eat
what's
it up.
up?
Elbert County, what's up,
Yeah.
Elbert County on TikTok? So and that might be a whole nother show that we could get some biologists on and talk about that. We'll do a show on old school baits. I tell you, next week we got LJ back in the house, and we're going to talk about how a finesse guy approaches a bed. Now, let me ask you one more question. How much do electronics play in any type of bed fishing? Now, I know you don't use them, but can guys use these forward-facing sonars now to actually go and see a fish and the way it's acting and say that fish is on bed?
Yeah, I'm sure you can. I haven't. To me, rather than forward-facing sonar, I would feel like 360 would do better than forward-facing sonar
Because you can actually see the
because you
bed.
can actually see the beds and you can see and you can just throw especially for spots.
Yeah.
Given the situation with spots where you don't really have to be like dead accurate with a little spot on the bed where it really pisses them off the most.
Yeah.
Um,
I can tell you with that
I mean,
360
you get
going
10
over.
foot. Sometimes you get 10 foot within a bed. A spot runs over there and eats whatever the hell you throw.
It does.
I mean, it's
But that's a good point.
accuracy's not involved.
Yeah, it's a good point because you can go with 360 and go back even late in the summertime and you're going over any lake and you can see brim beds. You can just see all those big things, looks like tires.
Yeah.
So the 360 is definitely perspective view works good, Michael Temple says. But that's a good point, finding the beds in the bottom like that. So
Yeah, I forgot about perspective view. I mean, perspective view is kind of like 360. It's just 360 live, basically, but not really all around the boat. It's just all out in front of you. I don't know. I don't know. I'm probably not going to. Right now, I'm not going to be really using it
as much. You don't use that much in the springtime anyway because you're
not for me.
You're running and gunning.
I'm doing reaction. I'm fishing. I'm fishing with what's up here more than what's the electronics are telling me.
Okay.
So.
All right. So how long of a period do we have now that spawning has started? First wave of spawners are up, and so we're going to jump on. How long does this entire spawn last? And give me the major parts of it. I realize there can be fish that can still bed later on in the year, but how long does the spawning season last for largemouth, and then how long does the spawning season last for spots?
You're going to see a bunch next week during that full moon, largemouth wise, and a lot more spots. You'll have another major wave in the full moon in May.
Mm-hmm.
And after May, depending upon how the water temperature is, they're just going to start being random.
Is it true that the bigger bass will spawn first?
I guess you could say to an extent, yes. Wouldn't necessarily. I guess it kind of works hand in hand that they're bigger, but more wise. I think the wiser ones go up and do their thing because of experience. And the sad part about that situation is that sometimes some of them do it, and their fry stand no chance. It gets too cold again or something like that. At the end of February, we had that tournament, and I seen 2 fanning beds, bucks, fanning beds. Don't know if anything ever happened with those beds, but they were up there fanning beds, making beds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the end of February,
right?
My intelligence right now tells me, my intel tells me that on the south end of the lake, that they're everywhere. Lower end of the Chestatee Bay down south to the dam, that there's a bunch of largemouth and spots on the bed. More largemouth than spots.
Currently,
you're really not going to see that major wave of spots though until the water temperature stays in the mid 60s.
Okay.
You're just really not. I mean, you're still going to see some. People will catch some, but you're not going to see that really good wave until it hits the mid 60s for the spotted bass.
Okay.
But you'll have largemouth that'll spawn all the way up into the upper 70s. You know, if they haven't spawned yet, they'll try to spawn. And you know, I mean, I took you last year in June, and we seen 2 on the bed.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
know,
remember that.
and that was June, and the water temperature was 78.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
In the back of a pocket.
yeah, Lanier's a little bit different. I think a lot of the fish on Lanier and on Hartwell and Clark's Hill, lakes with bluebacks in them, I think a lot of the older fish know what's coming. And when I say they know what's coming, we're talking herring spawn.
That's interesting.
Which we're going to be knocking on the door of that here soon. But I think they know what's coming, so they go up and they do their deed. And there's also a good population of them, however, that ignore it and they just sit there and wait on the herring to spawn, because I've caught them with eggs freaking just spewing out of them, spotted bass. And it's like, it's too late for this one.
Yeah.
You know, what's it doing? But it was up there eating a topwater bait where there were herring up there spawning.
Mm-hmm. Which leads to Michael Temples. It's not a dumb question. There are no dumb questions. What about a shad spawn? Shouldn't it be happening soon?
Shad will be a little bit. Shad, you really don't look for it too much until you get into May.
The bluebacks will go first. Or should?
Used to say, if Kevin's still on here, Underwood, if he's still on here, he can kind of back me up with this. Maybe Scott Kurt can too. Seems like the rule of thumb used to always be, the bluebacks don't spawn until the water temperature gets about 70. I don't really think that's the case too much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of them spawn earlier now. And I don't know if that has to do with population, that Lanier is so stuffed with herring. The shad spawn on Lanier is about damn useless to fish. They don't really seem to care.
Because they're after the blueback.
I mean,
you talking about the spawn itself of them?
The shad spawn.
Okay.
They don't seem to care really about shad spawn. Last year I found in one day, I don't think Bronson's watching, so he can't back me up on this, but just one day me and Bronson found 5 in the first hour.
Different
shad spawns. Yeah.
Okay.
And we were 0 for 5.
Trying to catch a fish around there. And you think that's because the fish know the bluebacks they're after the bluebacks?
2 years in a row where I found multiple shad spawns happening and didn't catch a damn fish. Shad.
Yeah.
There's a visible difference between shad and herring when they spawn. Shad get up close to the bank. Shad get up close to a round piece of cover and stuff like that. And they just get up there close to the bank and down the bank. There'll be stretches of them for hundreds of yards. And sometimes they'll spawn around one dock, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That tournament in June that we had a good bag all on buzz bait up the river, way up the river. We had on buzz bait. And those were gizzard shad spawning. We actually physically seen the gizzard shad swimming around and around in a circle, and they were this big.
Big gizzards.
And they're big gizzards, and they were swimming around and around and around in a circle on a dock float. And that was in June. The shad spawn, the herring spawn, the gizzard shad spawn. They kind of when it happens, it happens. I don't really know what the deal is with the shad spawn on Lanier specifically. I know on Hartwell, if shad spawn's happening, it's lights out still. They don't seem to care whether it's bluebacks or shad. They seem to love it. I really can't explain it. And I'm not saying that all over the lake on Lanier that they ignore a shad spawn, because I'm sure there are places where they are paying attention to a shad spawn, but
you just haven't had the luck.
I personally, for me, for the past couple of years, I just haven't seen it happening where are actually up there eating shad.
Okay.
When you find bluebacks going if you're throwing something like a Sebile or a topwater plug or something, it's your best chance to catch two at a time. Stupid question, but after all the rain recently, is Lanier open? Lanier never closes.
But some of the ramps have opened back up.
Yeah, some of the ramps have started.
They did have some of the ramps closed, so Lanier's you're right.
Everything should be back.
Everything should be open right now.
There's a couple of instances though where the campgrounds at certain ramps are not even opening back up.
Yeah, but the boat ramps.
But the boat ramps should. Boat ramps after this past weekend should all be back up fully functioning again.
Yeah, they should be. They should be.
But no, Lanier never closes. The only time Lanier would close is if the lake ever got too high or too low.
Yeah, it'd have to be real low.
It'd have to be
where it was dangerous.
It'd have to be where, like, even like Charleston Park, you can't back a boat down the ramp.
Right.
Where some of those old roadbed lakes like Sardis and Shoal Creek, where the actual part of the boat ramp is actually a road. One of the lanes is a road that goes off into the lake.
That's right.
That would.
But no, to answer your question, it does not close. Okay, so we got anything else on the bed fishing, or we think we've covered that pretty good tonight? Any other little tidbit before I send us home for the evening? I think we pretty much covered a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll do this again here.
Oh, we'll talk about it some more.
Bad fishing some more.
Might have some video. We're going to be putting together some on the water videos.
We might be video here
doing one of those
soon, to put on YouTube.
Patreon.
We will.
I'll get on that. I will say this. We're not trying to start arguments or anything about it, but if you catch bed fish in a tournament and take them back to a boat ramp, and someone waggles their finger in your face about it, just ignore them.
Don't buy into the argument,
because you don't know. We don't know. There's so many things that happen post spawn. I mean, you may have a largemouth, for example, may spawn in 8 foot of water and no one ever see her ever. And her eggs hatch and her buck guards the nest for a while, and then the fry hatch, and then the buck guards the fry. And
now sometimes he turns around and eats them.
One day the buck might get hungry enough where he devours all of the fry. So, it does happen. It's, the other thing too that we all can't, control is a female successfully spawns, her eggs hatch, or her eggs don't hatch while the buck is trying to guard the nest. And this happens especially a lot in May, through the month of May and early June. The buck's doing everything he can. Female's done gone. She's done her job as far as she's concerned. Spotted bass and largemouth bass are absolutely horrible mothers.
Mm-hmm.
They really are.
That's true.
They don't take care of their. I'll answer that Michael Temple's question in a second. Just 1 second. But anyway, to round off that thought though, like we don't know what happens. We don't know. I mean, you may see one on the bed and you be like, man, that's a beautiful fish. It's a great fish. We're going to leave her alone so she can spawn. And she may spawn. And then you leave. And Wednesday, while you're at work, la-da-da, making your money, while you don't know, 50 brim may raid the bed.
Right.
And eat everything out of the bed.
There's so many variables.
There's so many different variables. I mentioned that I don't bed fish. I didn't bed fish, but I will bed fish more now than I used to in tournament situations. The largemouth are a lot better. There's more of them now. in terms of spawning with low lake levels, I'll say this: Mother Nature finds a way.
That's true.
Mother Nature always finds a way. When they're going to spawn, they're going to spawn. They're going to spawn. It don't matter if the lake's 10 foot low or 10 foot high. They're going to spawn, and they're going to do their thing.
Which goes to Ron's comment. The Coosa River fish tend to be very, in tune with the water levels changing up and down. So, they know it. I imagine, they'll just spawn wherever they can. And, if the water keeps coming up, it is what it is. But they're going to spawn. They're definitely going to spawn. Yeah. So, well, that's a good way to wrap up the show like that. So, guys, listen, hey, a lot of information been covered tonight. Chattooga, Latham, Lanier, and of course, a very good discussion on bed fishing. I want to say thank you to all the comments. A lot of good information in the comments. If you ever want to go back and watch it again, sometimes just going back and watching the show again for the comment section, there's a lot that can be learned. And we thank every one of you viewers that take the time, to put those comments in there. We actually, every once in a while we'll see a comment, we'll go, and we'll try that ourselves. So again, this show is for you guys so that you can converse and we can talk about things. So we appreciate you very, very much. Again, I want to thank all of our great sponsors: For Her Outdoors, Buford Dam Bait and Tackle, Red Bobber Gear, Rachel Collins with 400homes.com, and Jason Sayers with Elite Pressure Washing Landscaping and J&S Construction. Guys, support your local businesses like that. If you're on the water this weekend, hey, Saturday's going to be a little windy. Got some rain coming in. Y'all be careful out there. Enjoy it. And again, if you're willing to volunteer for the Women and Children's Fishing event that we're going to have April 22nd at Mary Alice Park on Lanier, hit us up. We got to try to find some volunteers. If you know somebody else, we definitely could use your help with that. It's going to be a great event. So want to thank Ryan for all the good information. Paul for working the board tonight.
You're welcome.
Hey, listen, Paul, he makes a long drive up here every Thursday to do this. So his effort is greatly appreciated. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And again, on Patreon, we do have a Patreon. All right. And that's where Ryan goes a lot more in depth than these videos that we're putting out for YouTube. Those videos are a little more general. He goes a lot more in depth. You should check that out and become a Patreon for us to help support what we do here as well. And you'll get some good fishing information. So
another thing we're going to do this summer is if you want to go fishing, we're going to be trying to set some stuff up like that.
We are. We're going to be doing, there's a lot of things coming down the pipe.
I'm no guide by no means, by no reason, but I can put you on fish.
He will do that. That's right. We're going to let him start taking out people. So again, also, did I miss anything with that? I think I've got everything. TikTok, we appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Next week, LJ with Lanier Baits. Jim Harmon's going to be on the show. And yeah, I'm going to make Ryan talk drop shot fishing for 2 hours right there now. But anyway, LJ and them be in the house. It's going to be a great show. Look forward to seeing you then. You guys have a great weekend. We appreciate you.
Good night, everybody.